Welcome everyone to our City of Light Health Fair. We have two wonderful. Uh-oh. Do I need to move up just a little bit? Okay. We have two wonderful speakers here for you today. Our first one is Dr. Stacia Alexander. She is a seasoned psychotherapist who has owned and operated a private group mental health practice for over 20 years. She has spearheaded programs helping over 17,000 individuals and families in the Metroplex and serves as a director of Paul Quinn College's mental health clinic. Her work highlighting the emotionality of success for professional women helps them understand the journey to success does not make them immune to emotional and cognitive challenges. Amen to that. Her latest project, My College Mental Health, is a comprehensive system designed to prepare pre-college and college students to address and support their mental health needs in school. And we have 3 of our kids that just started school, so we probably need to get the book for them. The easy-to-read book, 10 Things I Wish I Knew About Mental Health in College, and I wish I had had that book 30 years ago, should be in the hands of every pre-college and college student. She speaks to small and large audiences about the importance of mental health to decrease the stigma around mental health treatment. Personally, she has been married for 30 years to her best friend, praise God for that, and have raised 3 kids together who are out the house and grown. Or one came back, but she's still grown though. Yeah, she's still grown. And they have raised 3 kids together who have all given her and her husband the blessing of being empty nesters. With that, I would like to introduce you to Dr. Stacia Alexander.
Thank you. Yeah, I need to update that. She came back, but it's okay. Long as everybody has a full-time job, we're good. Yeah, that's the important part, raising self-sufficient individuals, I should say that. So thank you all for having me. I do applaud you for hosting this type of affair because we all need to have frank conversations about what it takes to actually live our best lives and not looking at it through the scope of financially, right? Friends, who's popular, who's not popular, but looking at it through a spiritual perspective and holistically, how are our bodies functioning? So I thank you all for having me here. Thank you, Sarah Tamika, for inviting me here. I appreciate it. Like she said, I do speak to quite a few audiences, and I think I get invited out just because I remove the discussion of mental health from the classroom and bring it into situations like this where we can have conversations. So I love to facilitate discussion. If you have any questions, you want to contribute anything to the conversation or any comments, please feel free to do so. I'm not opposed to that. I think it helps us get along a lot better. I tell people all the time that I thrive off of the energy in the room. I have had a dose of caffeine this morning, so I'll have a little bit of my own energy, but I would also like energy from you all, engagement. And with that being said, if I talk fast, just tell me to slow down and I will, okay? So what we have ready for today, thank you. What we have ready for today is a recipe for hope. And the reason I focus on this now is because we've gone through so much in the last 3 to 4 years collectively that even if you're having a good day, the person next to you, like there's a 70% chance that they're not having a good day, and you're going to feel some degree of that tension that they're experiencing. So if we all can talk about what it actually takes to maintain our hope in these times like this, then I think we're a little bit more equipped to deal with our day-to-day challenges. One thing you'll see on here is a date from 2020, and I'll explain why I use that date. But I also want to preface this by saying I also know that a lot of the pressures that we're feeling are not because of our own circumstances, right? Like not because of our individual challenges that we're having, but also as a society, we're collectively dealing with a lot of pressures. I did a TEDx talk about a couple of weeks ago, and I call foul on mental health, because not everything is a mental health issue. As much as they are pointing the finger, when I say it, they're pointing the finger at us, but there are other things that are going on collectively that are not being addressed, like the social media growth and the intrusion it has on our lives, the political climate, and how things have shifted considerably since the election of our first African-American president. Our job market and how toxic it is, and the fact that inflation is outpacing compensation. We were just talking about how challenging it is for young people to even establish themselves. My daughter called me one day, her and her friends were laughing, and she said, "How old were you when you got married?" I said, 23. "Mom, I'm 23. So how old were you when you got your first house?" 23, Taylor. Yeah, 20. "Mom, I can't even afford to, buy gas, and you're over here buying houses." And I said, houses weren't $400,000 for 1,800 square feet back then. So there's a difference to that. And the last thing that I talked to the audience about was the food industry and how many additives and preservatives they put in our foods that actually impact our brain health. And if your brain is impacted, then your mood and your cognitive thinking is impacted. So some of the things that we're talking about are not just because we don't know how to cope. Some of them are related to these societal ills. So I try to make sure people understand some stuff is within our control and some stuff is based on our response to what is happening. Does that make sense when you differentiate that? Okay, so let's go to the first slide. I told you I would talk about the challenges that we've seen since 2020. COVID-19, I don't think any of us in this room were not impacted by it. I realized about 3 months in, I think we shut down everything in February or March. By May, I realized I'm having a hard time too. And it took me a minute to realize that I was going through the exact same thing that my clients were going through for the first time in my life. I've walked people through tragedies, through traumas, through circumstances, but I'd never gone through them at the same time they were. Even when I lost family members or whatever, it was like, okay, this is my situation, but this person has lost a marriage, so I can help them deal with that. But to realize that I'm sitting across a Zoom screen, appointment after appointment, I'm experiencing the same tragedies they are, right? I'm losing family members, I'm quarantined, I'm not making as much money or what have you. That was the first time I realized this is a lot. And our bodies were not made to absorb this kind of pressure, and we were all collectively watching it. I've already said the race relations based on the election cycle and some of the things, and we're about to go through that again. It's about to get heated again. I hope that it won't be as heated considering they are issuing out prison sentences now for misconduct. But it was very difficult for us to process. The unemployment in the financial market. I don't know if you guys are watching the world news and the expectation that there will be another economic hit that we need to prepare for in the coming years, especially with this election. And the social isolation. My friend said that she went to a high school football game last night, and she was shocked by how little participation it was from the students. There were parents in the stands, but there weren't a lot of students. My first thought was, they're at home on social media. They don't have to get out. Like when we were growing up, I know you're a little young, but when we were growing up, there was nothing else to do on Friday nights but go to the football games, right? And after the football games, you went to the Pizza Hut or the Burger King or the 7-Eleven, whatever, and you hung out there. There was absolutely nothing else for us to do, so we all collectively came together. This generation has a lot that they can do other than hanging out with their friends. And I won't even say this generation, because I've noticed that our generation is also isolating, right? Because of the possibility of violence, because of the possibility of getting sick with COVID, or the fact I just don't deal with people anymore. As human beings, we are communal creatures. Even if you are an introvert, you still thrive off of exchanging energy with other people. That is the way that we grow and mature. So that degree of social isolation will have an impact on our mental health, whether we agree with it or not. What do you all think? Just first slide, what you think? Absolutely. Okay, so we on the right track, right? All righty. So here, what we're going through now is similar to the Great Depression. These are some of our emotional responses to it. Anger, sadness. And I'll tell you all, if you want this presentation, Tamika has it. She can send it to you. I don't hold on to nothing. Yeah. Anger, sadness, emotional paralysis. When I say that, just dry. Have you met some people that they don't give you anything? He say, yes, yeah. Every Sunday, just sit in the pews, sit in there. Have you noticed an overwhelming sense of fear from family or friends? Just walking in fear, just cannot move forward or won't move forward, won't try new things. Confusion. What is going on from day to day? Anxiety. Some people do not even realize what anxiety looks like in their lives. So let's just say some of the things. Anxiety, what does it look like? Procrastination, nervousness. What else? Sleeplessness. Physical tension, doubt. What else? Doing too much. You can't sit still. Just doing too much. Right? Now, here are some of the physical responses. Those were emotional responses, but look at the physical responses. A change in your sleep pattern, not sleeping enough or sleeping too much. Okay? Changing your eating habits. So diet is on there, but I don't want people to think that I'm saying you're just focusing on losing. I'm saying change in your eating habits. Nutritionally, what's going on? Moving at a slower pace. This morning, I got up at 7 o'clock telling myself, you need to be somewhere by 10:30. And then when I looked at the flyer, I said, no, this is at 8. No, you need to be somewhere by 10. Get up and get moving. But how many of us will move at a slower pace because that's apprehension? That's a response to the day that lies ahead of us. So you're subconsciously slowing down your encounter with the day or some people around you. And then that last one, increase alcohol or drug consumption. But don't just look at illegal drugs. Caffeine, like I told you, I took a dose of caffeine this morning. Food. Sugar. Ouch. Sugar. We were talking when I came in, Percy noticed that Tamika and I have been working on our physiological needs. How about that? That's a nice way to put it. We had gained too much weight. Last year, I stopped eating sugar because I realized I was addicted to sugar. I've been addicted to sugar since I was wee high. Didn't take it seriously until the doctor came in and said, here's a prescription for metformin. You have diabetes. That woman had been telling me for 2 years I was pre-diabetic. I'm playing around. I'm watching Percy's stuff. He got exercises and videos and things. And I'm like, I can do it. I can just go running. Somebody said when we came in, 50 was disrespectful. 50 is disrespectful. Yes, there we go. 50 is disrespectful. So everything that I had been doing at 2025 didn't work at 50. So the weight just started popping on. So when she said I had diabetes, I was like, we're not doing this. I cried, but I cried. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I cried because that scared me, okay? But what it did not prevent me from doing, I didn't stay in that fear. I figured out something, and so I cut that sugar out, and that weight just started dropping off. But not only did the weight start dropping off, I had a better clarity of thought, so I'm thinking clearer. I was sleeping better. That's first. My husband say, I think we're going to have to sleep in separate rooms because you snoring so bad. I was sleeping so good, and I had more energy. And guess what else? I felt more positive because I knew that I was doing something for my body, for longevity, for overall health. So when we're walking in that Great Depression, there are things physiologically going on, there are things cognitively going on, and there are things emotionally that are going on. That's why I'm so glad that I've been invited here today where we can talk about hope. We have to be able to sustain our hope. Everything is not bleak. We're in a church, so we already know where our assurance lies. What I talk about is the humanity of our faith. My husband is a minister, so if he were up here, he would snatch the mic from me. Like, it'd be scripture after scripture, verse after verse after verse. I've walked in the humanity of my faith, right? I know what God says to me. When I lay down at night, my body don't necessarily oblige what my mind knows. So that when I get up the next day, I haven't had a good night's sleep. I'm gritting. I'm, clenching my jaws. I'm sweating, not doing well because my body is not obliging what my mind knows. Okay? So here we go. These are the 3 things. No, we're going over each letter. 4 things. Hope. All righty. Hold on to your faith in God, which is what I said, right? That reigns supreme over every single thing. Just because we have more resources and we're more intelligent and we're more enlightened does not mean that his power has waned. Have you ever tried to witness to an intelligent person that does not believe in God? And that's my first thing I say. Your intelligence does not mean that God is not powerful. Just because you seek out knowledge does not mean that what he has in store for us is not everlasting. So we get so distracted by our interests that we run the risk of losing our focus on him who is our source. And with everything going on, think about what I said, the distractions that we encounter every single day. When I turned over this morning, based on a sermon I heard yesterday, when I turned over this morning, my first thing out of my mouth was gratitude. Thanking him for everything, like that, just right in my immediate thought before I picked up, because I do my Bible study on here, because I trying to stay off of social media, checking emails and stuff. Let me just put my Bible app on here. Let me put my devotions on here, right? But before I even picked up to do that, it was just, Lord, thank you. We had a good night last night. The baby girl up there, she had a good night. The boy in California, he ain't called home, asked for no money. Thank the Lord. Just thank you, just being grateful for the small things. And then when my husband said good morning, I was like, okay, I did that, right? Just because we're so distracted. Like y'all had to get up and come here to prepare for today. That's a good distraction. Like, don't think about distractions as just negative. That's a good distraction, but it still keeps you distracted. We have to be mindful of that. Okay, on our O, we have to operate with a sense of purpose. What does that do for your life when you walk in your day with a sense of purpose? I'm giving you an example. Go ahead. What are you going to say? Go ahead. No, you're good. Yes. So how old are you? You mind me asking? 24. Okay, you're the same age as my daughter. I love it. Okay. This is what I told them. Each one of my kids, after they graduated from high school, and college, they graduated during COVID, which that was just a hard time to figure out where you're going in life. She said, amen. But each one of them sat down. When I tell you they sat down, they laid down, they lounged, but they were miserable. They were miserable. My son was in counseling. My daughter was in counseling. My nephew was just too hard-headed. He's like, I don't want to go to no more counseling, ain't he? I done had it. But they were miserable. And one thing I kept telling them was that you have no purpose right now. You have no goals when you get up every day. You have no destination. Now, my son, he listened, right? He got up and got going. He's on this side of the world. But that little girl, she said to me, and I say little girl, y'all, because she's 14, weigh 90-something pounds. She's tiny. She's like a 4th grader walking around, right? But she said in my face every day and watch me get up and work out in the yard and everything. So I jacked her up one day because it just got to be too much. But after that day, you know what I did? I put boxes outside of her door. I said, I don't know what you're going to do, but you're getting out of here. I don't know where you're going to go, but you're getting out of here because you have no purpose. Y'all know that broke my heart. I'm tearing up right now. That I put those boxes at her door, and I'm on her social media. I know what she was saying about me. You know what I'm saying? I know what she was saying about me. But I put those out there so she could have a sense of purpose. And guess what she ended up doing? Got a job in Spain. That girl got up and moved across the world and came back a much more stable, mature person. We have the best conversations right now. Before it was me saying, you need to do this, girl, you so smart, you so creative, you got all of this talent. Like, just go. She's like, you're giving me anxiety, you're stressing me, and it's just not that easy. And I'm like, I pay your bills every day. Like, you got gas in the car. You eating every day. All of this stuff is going on. But for her, no sense of purpose was more of a burden to her, right? That is oppressive. And that's what we see a lot of times, especially with our young people. especially when we've done a lot for them to create that safe space and create those opportunities so they wouldn't have to get out the house at 17 and 18. We actually remove their purpose. We remove that journey to get to their purpose. We remove that struggle to get to their purpose. Let me keep going because y'all got to keep me on the time. Be intentional to avoid a sense of drifting, which is what they were doing, where you become involved with activities or exercises that pull you away from your purpose. How many times have you asked God deliberately, intentionally said, Lord, if it ain't for me, move it. Move it. Move it. And I tell people when God says no, I give myself about 3 days. Like the last big no I got, I said, I'm going to lay down for 3 days. Trent's like, now you need to go dancing because I take swing out lessons. You know what? Now you need to go dance. You need to get back up there. I was like, husband, I'm going to take 3 days. If I feel like crying, I'm going to cry. If I feel like sleeping, I'm going to sleep because that was a hard no. But at the end of that 3 days, I got back up and said, okay, what's next? We're human. We're human, right? We have to deal with the humanity. Even during your relaxation and self-care moments, be intentional about the activity. That's so that you can live in the moment and not look up and say, I don't remember what I did last year. What did I do to replenish? Especially when you give, you do for other people's, how are you restoring? How are you recalibrating? We have to be mindful. Okay, let's go to the P. Prepare for the challenging moments in your life by surrounding yourself with people who truly care for you and are supportive of you. How hard is that? Especially when you do for other people and you are a giver by nature, people are drawn to you, even if it's subconsciously. But you have to be intentional about moving yourself also to people who will help you replenish. Because you cannot give from an empty vessel. But we do. We try to do that day in and day out. Tamika asked me today, she's like, why you need to update your YouTube channel? I ain't been doing my YouTube. I've been on TikTok. One of the most popular TikToks that I did was a conversation about how one of my cousins died early because she was taking care of so many people that she had a brain aneurysm. We were young. We were in our 30s. I said, and every single one of those people that she was taking care of had to regroup after she passed and do what? Take care of themselves. Right? Even if we're a caretaker, we still have to be mindful of how much we can tolerate. Be mindful about the energy you're investing in other people who repeatedly drain you without any intention of being a source of support for you. Also, build into your routine proper rejuvenation times so that you are able to concentrate and create when it's time to work. I don't care what you do, everyone in us has a creative thread. That creative thread balances out our emotional well-being. If you draw, if you write, if you dance, if you garden, if you build, all of those things are creative. It's about balancing out. We are so wonderfully made, and every day we get up and deny what God has done for us. Every day. We don't get enough sleep. We don't eat the right food. We don't stay active. We don't laugh. We don't talk to people. Every day we get up and deny what he has put into place. That's what I realized when that doctor said, you have diabetes. And she said, if you come back next time and that blood pressure high, you got to take medication for that blood pressure too. That was because I was denying that I can't sit up and eat sugar all day long and be the best version of myself. And I did take it to an extreme because my holistic doctor told me I was a crackhead. So I don't eat sugar, and I don't eat fruit. I don't eat bread. I don't eat anything because, excuse me, Pastor Bishop, you don't let a crackhead smoke a joint. You don't go over there and say, hey, you do this and you'll be okay. You don't tell an alcoholic they can drink wine. So for me, I don't eat that stuff anymore. And I feel great. You see what I'm saying? It's not like I'm suffering, right? It's not like I'm suffering because I gave up that one little thing in order to balance out my health. E, engage in activities that feed your creativity. Find something Find something. Even if it's coloring, they have adult coloring books. There you go. It does not matter. Find something that feeds your creativity and exercise that part of your brain and your soul that needs to grow beyond the confines of what the world has trimmed down, right? Because we get caught up in society. It's trimmed down to your space in this system. And when I say the system, your relationships, your work environment, your community, these are things that are happening. So if you have to step outside of the box, right? You have to step outside of the box and find some way to be creative and do that. Because during COVID, I had the most beautiful garden. I didn't just have flowers, I had vegetables. I had a whole lot of vegetables that I was giving food away. Had a little bit of fruit. It's harder to grow fruit. I don't know if people know that, but it's harder to grow fruit than it is vegetables. You got to be a lot more patient. But all of these things just being creative to deal with the pressures of going through COVID. It may be something extravagant or it can be small, but do it and do it with fervor, meaning put yourself on the schedule to do that. How many of you use a planner? You use a planner. Do you ever write your name on your planner? You do. You're like, write your name on your planner. My planner for Thursday, it says, Stacia, sit down. For every block of time, Stacia, sit down. Stacia, sit down. Stacia, sit down. And when my receptionist texted me, she said, are you sitting down? I was like, I am sitting down. Put yourself on your calendar. So this is how we're going to go to protecting your mental health. Stay in touch with loved ones. Resist the urge to hibernate and isolate. Find other ways to connect with people. Not just texting. Calling, getting up, going to lunch, going to brunch, supporting other people. Find a way to stay connected. Limit your exposure to the news. I had no idea what was going on at Clark Atlanta until I swiped on TikTok and saw that flood. It just wasn't in our local news. I didn't see it until then. And then it was this surge, because I'm working with college students. It was like, oh my gosh, these babies up here, all their food was gone. Their cars are gone. They can't even get, to the grocery stores and stuff. But just that whole thing, having access to world news in real time. That has not always been the case. So why do we think we can absorb that level of information every single day? Whether you watch it or not, guess what? It's going to happen. You do not have to be fully informed. Access professional services. What do I mean when I say that? Counseling. Get some, yeah. And we're going to talk about some ways that you can access that. So here's some self-care, the next slide. Things you need to do, and you need to really do this anyway. I've already told you guys about the gratitude and your prayer time. Exercise activity. Mr. Bass is going to talk to you all about that. I think my neighbors probably think I am absolutely crazy now because even when I go walking, I'm still dancing because I want to learn these steps, right? So I'm just walking down the street listening to my music. Get you some outside time. Not only for the vitamin D, but guys, I think our air quality is reasonable here, but it's still an exchange of energy. If you're only spending time outside when you walk from the car to your building and from the building to the car, get gas to the grocery store, that doesn't count. That doesn't count. I'm saying actually sitting outside, and it does not matter what the weather is. It does not matter. We're human beings. Like, remember that. We are not machines. There are certain things that we need to stabilize. Drinking plenty of water. That is also for your emotional health. When I do an assessment, I ask people, how much water do you drink a day? How many vegetables are you eating a day? How much protein? How often are you sleeping? What's your activity level? Who do you talk to? Who are you talking to every day? What's your routine? Are you constantly rushed? Like me getting up at 7 this morning to be here by 10? That's so that I wouldn't rush. But how many people do that, get themselves a 3-hour window? Especially if they under 40. They really don't. It's like, I got 10 minutes to get there. And I'm just now getting in the shower. Healthy options, quality of sleep, and attending to your health and not ignoring the symptoms. I was telling them that I have a Buick, a 2010 Buick, but it was new. It was brand new in 2010, right? It was brand new. So by the time I went to this holistic doctor, it was good. And she engaged me in a conversation. She said, that's a nice car you got out there. I was like, thank you. Get the kids around. She said, how do you get the oil change? every 90 days because we drive that car, you know. She said, well, what's this gas mileage? How often you get the tires rotated, right? And I'm just throwing out answers. She's like, oh, okay, so you take pretty good care of that car. I was like, absolutely, it got to last me till they graduate. Like, I don't want no more car notes. She said, okay, so how much water are you drinking a day? How often do you go get your wellness exams? How often do you exercise? All these questions are deficits at this point, right? And she said, so you take better care of that car than you do your own body. I know I said, ow, girl, you just unbacked me into a corner. Like, I had no response for that. It was a wake-up call that I'm not eating enough protein, I'm not eating enough vegetables, I'm not drinking enough water, so why wouldn't I feel depleted? And I'm a mental health provider, making sure everybody else is doing the right thing, but not focusing on myself, right? Okay, so when you're prioritizing mental health, you're spreading the word like you're doing now. And it's not just about, oh, you need to go to counseling. It is about checking for people. You seem down today. You seem really tired today. You seem distracted today. The anxiety, you procrastinated a lot. You don't get here on time like you used to. What's going on? Being more open about mental health. I think the strides we've made in the last 10 years have been phenomenal. Because when I started, I got licensed in 1998. And if I was invited into a church to talk about mental health, it had to be under these creative titles like stress management, conflict resolution. I remember one pastor got up, walked up to me and told me to go sit down because it was so uncomfortable to talk about mental health at that point in time. We don't have to do that anymore. Like, people truly understand and embrace that we cannot talk about holistic health without dealing with the mind. And if we deal with our mind, it does not mean it's a lack of faith. That's the humanity. Like, that's we're human beings. And then making help more accessible. So having a resource list that you, like in my phone, if any one of you text me today and say that you need a counselor, I'm gonna send you my name too, but I'm gonna send you about 3 to 4 people that you can look up their profiles. You don't even have to call them. You can look up their profiles and determine if that's somebody you'd be interested in seeing, and then you can reach out to them. I even put it on social media one day. Don't tell me anything about your business, but if you need my referral list, inbox me and I will send it to you. Over 70 people that day inboxed me. And I'm just copying and pasting. Boom, boom, boom. I never heard from them again. I never asked them their business. They never told me whether or not they called. I just sent it out. That's how you make it more accessible. Not just saying, well, if you need me, call me. I may need you to listen, but you cannot counsel me. If you have severe trauma, if you're suffering from depression, you got severe anxiety, and not even the more serious mental health disorders, we need counseling. We need mental health help. I tell people, because people will challenge, that means you're not faithful. You're not relying on God. I said, okay, well, if I have a heart attack before you all right here and now, I want some of y'all praying, but I want at least one person to dial 911. And when they come running through that door, I want somebody to hop up and say, she's over here. I want y'all to keep praying, but I want them over here. I want my life restored. I want to live. I don't have a DNR. I want to live. When they cart me out of here, I want y'all to come to the hospital, keep praying at the hospital, but I want that surgeon in that room making sure that I live. I want y'all to keep praying. When y'all go back to church on Sunday, keep me on your prayer list. Then when I go through physical therapy, I want every therapist in that room to make sure I'm up and walking again. I can eat again. I can talk again. I can think again. I want complete healing. And I want professionals in place to make sure that I can get to that point. Why is it any different for a therapist? We are clinically trained. We are professionally trained. I'm not coming in that office trying to change people's religion. I don't lay hands on people. I don't do any of that. But I am professionally trained to help you walk through those circumstances that are robbing you of your peace. And so if we have more frank conversations like that, we can help remove that stigma of mental health and going to get help. So these are the types of care. You got 24/7. Something is really going on, you got to go inpatient. We got to get you stabilized as quickly as possible. You have solo practitioners like myself who accept appointments. You have specialized wards. I know that that's scary, but what I'm saying is In every hospital, just about, they have a psychiatric ward, just like they have a maternity ward, just like they have a cardiac ward. They have a psychiatric ward. That's to get you stabilized and back out into your house, just like they do if you have a heart attack, get you back at home. Then they have crisis units that are around the Metroplex. You have group practitioners, where a group of people who have similar interests all work together. And then you have facilities. Might have to stay 2 or 3 weeks at a facility to get stable. And there are facilities that work on all different kinds of things. It could be something as mild as when my daughter went to Spain, I almost lost my mind, right? Like that was just really hard for me to balance out. Or it could be I'm having a psychotic episode, so I have to go get some treatment. Then you have resources to pay for therapy. To have your therapy. You got online services, which has increased considerably. You have 24/7 text hotlines that you can call into. Some people actually do home visits. Some people actually do home visits. And then you have emergency therapy. So it's just a crisis session. You can call into somebody and say, I'm about to lose my mind. I need to talk to somebody right quick. And then you can get the help that you need. So it's not hard to access, but you do need the information. And then I don't know if you guys use QR codes on this last one. That's my QR code. So if you ever needed a resource, my information, like everything, the website, everything is on that QR code. But the phone numbers are up there too if you want to take them down. The QR code will get you to the email address, the website, all the social media sites, and everything like that. All righty. Any questions, comments, feedback? Yes. Mm-hmm. You almost like what you do with your doctor. You start at what do you need the most from this provider and see if they can provide it. Sometimes people will start out looking for someone that looks like them. What are you dealing with? I'm dealing with depression, so you're going to look for somebody that specializes in depression. Oh, I'm dealing with job changes. I want somebody that focuses on career counseling. There are databases out there that you can put in just about every variable you want, the filter, and it will give you a list of clinicians. You also want to look at those financially. Some of them take insurance, some of them do not. And you can start there. If you have insurance coverage, you can start with your insurance company and call them, and they'll do that work for you. Like if you say, I want a Christian counselor that's in the area that focuses on grief and loss, they'll give you a list of those providers. That's a good question. Thank you. Ooh, that's a great question. Katrina, right? Okay, so here you go. This is what I tell everybody when they come to me. We're working together to get you where you want to be. This is not about me. So if at any point you decide you don't want to work with me, I will not be offended. Let me know, and we'll get you another counselor. So that may mean me giving them my other resources, people that I refer to. It may mean them going back to their insurance company or whatever. It may mean that they go out and look on their own. But I always give people that release that you're not obliged to me. You don't have to be loyal to me. If you don't remember my name 10 years from now, I'm okay with that. I would hope that you remember the work that we did to get you to the place of peace. But do not stay with a counselor that you're not getting along with. And let me be careful about that, though. If you're not getting along with them because of their style of counseling, we all have different styles of counseling, or you're not getting along with them because they late all the time, or they double book or something like that. But if you don't like them because they're challenging you and you feeling uncomfortable, like when that lady said, well, you take better care of your car than you do. They'll change because of that, right? That was accountability. I was uncomfortable with accountability. That woman told me 10 years ago I was a crackhead on sugar. I didn't listen to her because I thought I could outrun it, right? But I didn't stop going to her because of that. So you have to really look at why is it not working out with this clinician, and you make a decision to get what you need, just like you would any other provider. It's no different. That's a great question. Anybody else? Some good questions. So you all know how to contact me if you think of something later on. I appreciate the opportunity again. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. That was so very informative. That was right on time. Uh, we want to thank you for coming out today. I know you're going to have to go in a few minutes, but check your email later on for a thank you gift. So it'll be into your inbox later on today. We have about 12, 13 minutes before Mr. Bass comes up. We do have, I had a brain fart. Crystal. Crystal, raise your hand. Cardiac Fit. She's giving blood pressure checks. So please go out there and get your blood pressure checked. You know, that's one of the main things that is killing people in the African American community. We got to take care of our heart and our blood pressure. Seriously. And I know Percy gonna probably talk about that a little bit too. So please go out there and get your blood pressure checked while we have a quick break, and then come on back in at 11:30. We're gonna hear from Percy Bass. All right, thank you. All right, now we're on for our second speaker for today. We're excited to have Percy Bass. He is the owner, personal trainer, dietitian for Head to Toe Fitness Studio in Grand Prairie. He has been in business for 15 years. He's a registered dietitian. He has a degree from Texas Women's University, did an internship at Iowa State, and then he started working in clinical dietetics in 2006. He started Head to Toe Fitness in 2008. That's where I met Percy. I did a couple of his challenges. It has a Little Black Jess challenge that's about to start at the end of the month, and it's awesome. It's a 6 weeks, right? 6 weeks. You get unlimited workouts. He has Saturday special workouts, and they do a body scan so they can see where you start and where you end up. So it's great if you want to take your workout to the next level. So he started Head to Toe Nutrition in 2008 and then Head to Toe Fitness Studio in 2013. He wrote his first book in 2022. You see out there at the table, The Dope Method, which I have at home. I think you bought one, Mark. Did you? No? Okay, well, I have one at home, so you can read it. And started the Nutritionist Dope podcast this year. And I sent his second episode of his podcast on Tuesday in our text message for dietary health. So please go and take a look at it. He gives really good information. So with that, I'd like to introduce to you and bring up to the podium is Percy Bass.
All right. Thank you so much for that introduction, Tamika. I definitely appreciate Tamika inviting me this morning to speak with you all. Anytime I'm invited to speak about nutrition, fitness, or what have you, I get excited. The reason I get excited is because anybody that's going to be there wants to know the information, right? So I just get excited to be able to talk and give out the information. And so she was asking me, did I want to have a slideshow or PowerPoint presentation, and she told me I had 30 minutes, and I was like, I'm gonna have to have one because I can talk, right? I can just talk and talk and talk. So I said I need something that's gonna keep me in line so that I can go off of. But she asked me to talk about optimizing our health through small dietary changes, right? And we also gonna talk about small changes that we can do in our fitness as well, but I'm gonna be real specific about some things as far as nutrition is concerned. Okay, we're gonna talking about. I can give you tips and I can give you tricks and I can give you all the information that on paper that looks good. But one thing that we have to do first, we have to change the way we view things. Right now, we have to make sure that we are in a mindset that is going to allow us to take the information and act on it, right? So again, I can give you all the information. We can, it looks good on paper, but if you're not ready or if you're not ready to actually take action, none of that's gonna matter, right? So before we start talking about some of the tips and tricks and ways to actually make these small changes, we have to have a foundation, right? So optimizing health through small dietary changes. Let food be thy medicine, and medicine be thy food. Anybody know who said that? Hippocrates said that, right? So that sounds good, right? Sounds really good. But we all have to die from something. And that's what my Uncle Dan said. So let me take you back to 2001. I went home for Thanksgiving. Now, Thanksgiving, typical African-American dinner, right? Now, by 2001, I had stopped eating like beef and pork at that time, but that didn't matter because we were still gonna have everything that we usually had at traditional Thanksgiving. But my mom did buy me a little small turkey ham, right? And so she put it to the side and said, if you want to have this, you can have that. But we still had everything at the dinner table. So we're eating, having a good time. And at the end of dinner, my mom gets up and she asks my uncle, she said, which is my great uncle, which was her uncle, she said, what do you want for dessert? And he said, well, what do you have? She said, well, I have some sweet potato pie, I have some pumpkin pie, pecan pie, peach cobbler, pound cake, He said, okay. He said, well, why don't you just give me a little of everything? Now, that's a typical answer, right? Just give me a little of everything. But then my grandmother, which was his brother, which was his sister, said, "Now, Dan, you know you don't need all that with your sugar." Now, we all know what sugar is. Sugar diabetes, right? And the next thing he said changed the trajectory of my life. He said, "Well, Irene, we all got to die from something, and I'm going to eat these sweets." And when he said that, I sat back and I said to myself, you've watched your brother-in-law get leg amputated, fingers amputated from complications with diabetes. You've watched people in our family suffer from heart disease and things of that nature. But you will say we all got to die from something, and knowing that eating all this sugar is gonna go against your diabetes, right? But it wasn't for me at that time to go against my elder. I wasn't going to say anything to him at the table. But I said, you know what? If I could go back and get the information that I needed to help my family, then I would have done what I needed to do. Because, in the African American community, if you have a doctor in your family, or if you have a lawyer in your family, then they'll look and they'll listen to you, right? But what was I going to say at that time? So that's when I went and got my degree in dietetics, just so that I could have that information and be able to share with my family. And then over the years, I've helped thousands of people by the information. Just to kind of fast forward, that was 2001. My uncle died in 2019, so he still lived 18 years, but I used to get them phone calls. Hey man, you know about that nutrition stuff, don't you? Well, I need to get this sugar under control and stuff. So me getting that degree still ended up helping and giving him information. But what we have to understand is we have to make sure that we don't let the culture keep you from being healthy. Don't let the culture keep you from being healthy. I make the joke every year, January 1st, I make the joke, and sometimes I ain't joking, but I make the joke that it's 2023 and we still eating chitlins. Right? And then people say, "Oh, well, just let me have my chitlins on the first." It's a tradition. We had chitlins on the first. We had and that's fine. I'm not going to take those away from you. But when we look at it and say, "Oh, that's cultural," right? That's something that the culture does. Now, if you're eating chitlins, once a month or a couple of times a month, then we need to talk. But if you have it, on your typical days, that's fine, and we can do that. But also, being healthy doesn't mean that you have to take away the culture, okay? So when I talk, if I'm in a room with some Hispanic community, I'm not taking away tacos. I'm not taking away burritos. I'm not taking away rice and beans. I'm going to talk about how to make that a healthier, right? So when I'm talking in the African American community, we eat this and we eat that, and that's fine. We just find ways to eat healthier, eat those things healthier, right? And then, at family reunions or during Christmas and Thanksgiving, those holidays, we're not going to change mama's recipe. We're just not going to do that. So we allow for those times to indulge, right? Knowing that the majority of the year and other times we're going to be on pace, right? And so that's what I want to make sure that everyone understands, is that we're not going to try to take away all of the things that you are eating. We want you to take baby steps to make it healthier, right? So that you still can enjoy life, but also get your blood sugar, blood pressure, cholesterol, all that under control while still enjoying things. All right? So we have to change our mindset around food. Let's start eating to live and not living to eat. Right? We need to understand that just because it's in front of us don't mean we got to eat it. We've learned culturally, eat everything on your plate. All right? You wasting, right? If it's on your plate and you're not eating it. And we have to get out of that mindset, right? We have to learn how to maybe eat on smaller plates. That's a small step, right? We have to learn how to portion control, because one thing that you have to know is that food quantity is one and food quality is 1B. meaning that if you're trying to lose weight, food quantity is going to be your main thing, right? Food quality is going to be number two, meaning that, hey, I have the amount that I should eat. Now, what I'm eating, the types of food I'm eating, is going to be right there lockstep, right? So when somebody comes to me and says, hey, I want to lose weight, I ask them, how much you eating? We find out exactly how many calories and stuff that they're eating. And then they say, well, I want to get shredded, right? Or I want to look toned and lean and stuff like that. Then I say, okay, what is the quality of food you're eating, right? And so we have to understand that food is fuel, and understand what food is actually for, and stop, using food just as comfort, things of that nature. Understanding, excuse me, that healthy eating does not have to be boring or bland. That's another misconception, right? I have friends that would come over to the house when I started this healthy journey, and they'd be like, we finna go to Percy's house. He gonna have us eating grass and twigs and stuff like that. And I used to tell them, like, we're not. I mean, if we need to show you how to, if you're eating fruits and vegetables and lean cuts of meat, ways to prepare these things that'll still taste good, right? But you don't even want to try, right? Because in your mind you think that, if I'm gonna have to eat broccoli and boiled chicken all the time, and that's not the case, right? And through my years, I've learned that there are some foods out there that I would have never tried that are actually really, really good, right? And I try to impress that upon a lot of people to say, just try it, right? When you go to the grocery store and you're looking in the produce section, you see all the various fruits and vegetables, right? Each time you go, just try something different, right? A lot of times we think about it, well, I don't eat that, or we don't eat that. Who is we? Because if it's healthy, we need to be eating it, right? And so we need to get out of that cultural saying, or they eat that or we don't eat that. No. If it's healthy, we need to start eating it, right? And understanding that you can put a lot of different foods together in order to make things taste good. A lot of herbs, a lot of spices that bring flavor out. But we have to try, and we have to make that happen. We literally are what we eat. All right? We literally are what we eat. And that's not just a catchy phrase. I know you've heard that. It's not just a catchy phrase, and this is why. Our cells make up our tissues. Our tissues make up our organs. Our organs make up our systems. They replenish and back to the cell. But everything starts with food. What we eat is what makes up our cells. So if we're eating a lot of processed food, if we're eating a lot of junk, if we're eating a lot of sweets, if we're eating all this stuff, then we are what we eat, because what it does is it produces bad cells, right? So when we talk about we are what we eat, that's not something somebody made up. That's literal. So if we go back and we talk about eating whole foods, stuff from the ground, all right? We talk about eating legumes and I'm not on one end of the spectrum. I'm telling people to be vegetarian or vegan, and I'm not on the other end of the spectrum telling people to be carnivores, because the whole science hasn't told me that, right? And we can get to a whole big conversation about that, about the belief system and all that. But what I do know is that if we start eating more vegetables, if we start eating more fruits, if we start eating more nuts and seeds, if we start eating more lean cuts of meat, then we will be healthier, right? That I do know, right? And so a lot of times people will come and say, well, I like your approach because you're not trying to, make me take these things away, or make me a vegan, or make me a vegetarian. That's true, but I am going to tell you that you do need to eat more of those things so that you can be healthy, right? And so I made this this chart so you can actually see what happens inside the body, right? And if you just think about it, think about yourself eating a Pop-Tart, or think about yourself eating donuts, or think about eating all of these things that are processed, and then think about your cell and it just going and it's building your whole body. That's what causes disease and ailments and things of that nature. So now that you know this, what you gonna do? That's the question. Now that you know this, what you gonna do? You know, but the information, all these diets and nutrition stuff, it can be confusing, and it can be because you have so many different diets out there. All right, paleo, keto, right, Mediterranean, you know, the Atkins. You have all this information out there, and all it is for entertainment. Somebody lost weight off of a certain way that they ate, and now they say, okay, well, I lost this weight, let me make it a diet. Somebody eats nothing but meat, right? And then they lost weight, so now it's this diet. Somebody eats nothing but vegetables, they lost weight, now it's this diet, right? So it can be confusing, right? It can definitely be confusing, but that's why I wrote my book, all right? I wrote my book, The Dope Method, so that it can be a framework for people to actually be able to start, right? The D, and we're talking about that, but actually be able to start a healthy lifestyle and understand step by step how you can get healthier, right? And in here in the book, I'm not talking about any specific diet. This right here is talking about just how to get healthy, all right? So we're gonna explain what dope means, all right? Now, we're gonna specifically talk about the O because that means it's optimized. But the D in dope stands for decide and declare, okay? So we need to always make a decision, right? You make a decision on what it is that you need to do, and then you make a declaration over that decision to say that nothing or no one or myself is gonna stop me from making this happen, right? And what happens usually is before you make that decision, there's a why behind that, right? And so the why is really what drives the decision. So why do I need to make the decision? Because I went to the doctor and the doctor told me I was pre-diabetic. So I need to make a decision. I need to decide today that I'm going to start eating better, right? Why did I make this decision? Why? Because I was playing around with the kids one day and they would run upstairs. And when I got to the top of the stairs, I was dog tired and they still wanted to play, but I couldn't play no more. So I need to make a decision. I need to decide today that I need to start exercising more. I need to start losing this weight. So the why is always going to drive the decision that you make, right? And if your why is not strong enough, then you need to find another why, right? And your why should be so strong that when you go against your decision, it smacks you right back in line, right? And then, like I said, you make a declaration over that no one, nor you, or no thing is going to take you out of line, right? The O stands for optimize. Okay, we're going to talk about that. Optimize. What optimize means is just to make better, right? So we're going to optimize our nutrition, optimize our fitness. We're going to bring this together just to make things better. The P stands for prioritize. Prioritize you. All right? Prioritize you, meaning that we all have people who we take care of. And what happens a lot of times is, well, I can't make it to the gym because I got to take the kids here. Or I can't fix dinner because when I'm picking the kids up, all we can do is just stop by and get fast food, right? And so what's happening is you're not prioritizing yourself so that you can take care of them. Now you've gained 20, 30, 40 pounds because you're not taking care of yourself, and then the kids, they're going to live their life. But you need to be around. You want to be around for them, but you're letting yourself go. Now you have these different disease states and ailments. You're not prioritizing yourself so you can be the best version of yourself, so you can be the best version for other people. So we need to prioritize. And the last one is E, emphasize. Put an emphasis on consistency. Once we get everything together, once we got these steps together, we've learned these different habits and everything, then it's time to be consistent in doing them daily, right? Right? Do people brush their teeth every morning, right? That becomes a habit, right? And because you don't want to go out into the world and have bad breath and just have that nasty taste in your mouth. why don't we have a habit of making sure when we wake up in the first thing in the morning after we pray or after we meditate, then go get a glass of water. You wake up with a headache, what's the first thing you do? Let me go get this towel now. You need to drink some water, right? And so we need to put an emphasis on after we get these things together, then we're doing them consistently over time to get our best results. So the O, optimize nutrition. The definition is to make something as good or effective as possible, to make the most of, develop, or realize to the utmost extent, obtain the most efficient or optimum use of. So in the book, I talk about the computer analogy. You want your computer to run faster, right? You've had a computer for a while. You want the computer to run faster. So you take the computer to the Geek Squad, you take it to Best Buy, and you ask them, hey, what can you do for my computer? So for $19.99, what they tell you, they say, oh, for $19.99, I can go in, I can clean it up a little bit, it's gonna run a little faster. You're like, okay. For $49.99, they go in, they clean it up, they put some software on it, right? And then they say, hey, it's gonna be a lot faster now. But for $99.99, they go in, they clean it up, put the software on there, and they do some other stuff to make it run super fast. And you're like, okay. But you have to choose which one you want. And what they're not gonna do is give you another what? Computer. So you got your body. You choose whether you want the $19.99 boy, right? Meaning, okay, I can start from level 0 and I can go to level 3 and this is gonna make me better. Or I start at A and I can go to C. It's gonna make me a little bit better, right? But if I get to $49.99, I'm gonna go from A to F, right? But if I get to $99.99, I'm gonna go from A to Z. I'm gonna go cold turkey on everything. I'm gonna stop eating sweets. I'm gonna stop drinking alcohol. I'm gonna do everything today. I'm done. And we know, okay, if you do that, you definitely, I'm gonna get up. I'm gonna start running a mile every single day. You ain't ran a day in your life, right? That can be that $99.99. But you know that if you do that, right, you have a choice. But what I want to show you today is that you don't have to go to A. You don't have to go from A to Z, right? No non-note. You don't have to go all the way from A to Z, because A to E works just fine. All right, A to E works just fine. Now, I talked about this in my last podcast. If you see the on the screen, the top is 3 liters of Coke. So when I was in the clinical setting, there was a gentleman and his wife came in and he had just had heart surgery. And I was sitting in front of him and I was giving them some education, because that's what we have to do when they come out of surgery. So I'm giving them what we call cardiac diet. And I'm telling them, hey, you need to stop eating fried foods. You need to start walking. You need to increase your fruits and vegetables. You need to start drinking more water. And I'm looking at him, and he just seemed kind of dejected. And he's just kind of like, okay. And so I'm like, all right, are you understanding what I'm telling you, man? You just had a bypass. You need to start eating better. So he was like, all right. So his wife was like, why don't you just go ahead and tell him what you're doing? And I'm like, I'm looking like, well, what are you doing? And he said, well, man, I'm drinking 3 liters of Coke a day. That's what I said. And I sat there. He was a very large guy, and I sat there and I had to compose myself, because I was like, okay, I can't act like I ain't never seen it before. But I'm like, okay, you're drinking 3 liters of Coke a day. I said, well, let me ask you this. Do you think you can go down to 1? Right? I didn't ask him to take all his soda out. I said, do you think you can go down to 1? He was like, man, I just like the taste of Coke. Every time I'm eating or if I'm just sitting, and I just feel like I have to have a Coke. And I'm like, let's just try to get to 1 liter a day. Now, we all know that's still a lot of Coke, right? That's still, and so we have so much sugar, right? And so we finished the conversation and he left. So this was a few months later. I'm walking down the hall of the hospital, and I noticed this couple coming, and I'm not thinking too much. And so the lady says, "Hey, Mr. Bass, how you doing?" So I look and I'm like, "Hey, how you doing?" And I was like, "She looks familiar." And then I see him, and I was like, "Wow, he had lost a lot of weight." And so we're talking. I said, "Man, what are you doing?" He said, "Man, I took your advice. I decided to try to do was 1 liter." And he said, "I started drinking 1 liter, and then I realized if I can just drink 1 liter, then I can reduce it." Went from 1 liter to doing a little less than a 6-pack, and now I can do 1 or 2 Cokes a day. And I was like, you know what? That right there showed me that just taking baby steps, right? See, had I told him, "Hey man, stop drinking sodas," he'd probably still be more than 300 pounds, because at that point he was like, "Nah." But if I say, "Let's see if we can reduce this," and then take baby steps. He didn't go from A to Z, he went from A to E. Then he went from E to G, right? He took baby steps, and that right there showed us that we don't have to go cold turkey at first, but we do need to start making strides towards a healthier lifestyle. So how do we optimize? By making small changes. We identify where we are, okay? Everybody in here is different. So you find out where you are. What is your capacity, right? So somebody in here may already be eating healthy, but they want to take it to the next level, right? So somebody in here may say, "Well, I already get, 64 ounces of water in a day." We'll say, "Well, let's try to get a gallon in." That may be where they're starting. But somebody might not even get 2 glasses of water in a day. So if you say, "Well, I'm only getting 2 glasses in now, let me see if I can get 32 ounces. That's where you start, right? That's where you start. And then, okay, once I'm getting these 32 ounces in consistently, then what I do? Now let's see if I can get 64. You can gamify it, right? You and your friends get together. I'm getting my 64 in a day. You get your 64 in a day. That's one thing I like about the wearables, like the Apple Watches and stuff like that, because you can see what other people are doing. And did I close my ring today? Yeah, she closed her ring today. And then you can have the accountability, right? But you got to make sure that you stand firm, right? Set your parameters and stick to them, right? So if you say you're gonna do it, right? Because that's a big thing. Don't say, "Oh, well, I'm gonna eat all 7 servings of my vegetables today," and you haven't never done that. Start and say, "You know what? I'm gonna eat vegetables for the next 3 days at dinner time." Stick to that, right? Then, well, you know what? The next 3 days, I'm gonna eat vegetables at lunchtime. Stick to that. Because a lot of times it seems that we're gonna do it, but then things start coming about. And if you're not ready for it, then you just say, "Oh, well, I'm a failure," right? And then you just either start over, which is not a bad thing if you start over, or you give up, right? So again, set those parameters and then stick to it. Again, make it fun and exciting, right? So again, if you're saying, "I'm gonna eat more vegetables and fruits and things of that nature," then try different things, right? Let's not just say, "Oh, only thing I eat is green beans out the can." No. Let's try something different, right? Again, when you go to the grocery store and you see all the wonderful colors, try something, right? Get some radishes or something, just anything, and then find a recipe and fix it. And you might say, "You know what? I kind of like this," right? We are whole adults now. We're not kids no more. You can't use that as an excuse. "I don't like Brussels sprouts because I didn't like Brussels sprouts as a kid." Well, you're an adult, and you need to do adult things and You're not a kid no more. All right. So make it fun. Again, try different things and try different recipes so that at some point you can say, you know what, this ain't that bad. Right? So, question. I don't know if you can see that. So, can you do this? White rice to brown rice or quinoa? You can do that, right? Right? You don't know. But see, I got 12 things up here. And everybody might not be able to do all 12, but you can do certain ones, right? Red beans and rice, right? So potato chips to air popcorn. You can do that, right? Right? Okay. So white bread to whole grain bread. Okay, see, some of these things are easy switches, right? Next up. Soda or sugary drinks to water with a lemon. Some days. So now again, like we showed with the soda example, right? If someone drinks, a soda on a daily basis, right? Then maybe say, you know what? I'm gonna use this example, okay? So I know none of us in here drink alcohol, right? So what I'm gonna say is that if we say during the week we're not gonna drink alcohol, and then we might have a couple of beverages on the weekend, right? I take that from somebody who drinks every night and say, maybe let's stay dry during the week and try that, right? Right. So if you're having a soda every day, then let's take 2 or 3 days out of that and try to drink nothing but water, or try to do something with a little more flavor other than soda, right? So we look at it like that. So processed lunch meat to lean protein. When I say processed lunch meat, I'm talking about bologna, salami. I'm talking about those things. Even the turkey that we get, in the packages, all that's processed, right? And so eating leaner cuts, okay? And again, I'm not one that's going to, berate anybody on beef, pork, anything of that nature, but let's do leaner cuts of food, right? Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So think about and that's an excellent question, and I like to think of that as if something is in a package, it has to be preserved, right? So even our meat that's being preserved while it's sitting on shelf stay in the refrigerator being shelf stable, it still has to be preserved, opposed to it coming, them chopping it up for you, putting it in the wrap and giving it to you, right? So that's just like, green beans. I talked about it in the can. If frozen are going to be much better than canned. Frozen and acting, I love these questions. Frozen and fresh are actually 1A and 1B. Because what happens when it's picked, it's flash frozen immediately, right? So it still has this nutrient value in it, right? Now, of course, fresh is always going to be the best, but even in that, depending if you go to a farmer's market and get it that way, or if it has to be, right, like, it's coming from California or something. So, yeah, even the things that we think are healthier, right, and it might be a healthier option, but it's still processed. Yeah. Mm-hmm. 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 Carbonation. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now that right there is an excellent example, right? We got healthier because we weren't getting all the sugar from the soda, but we still felt like we were drinking it because of the carbonation, right? So we call that the instead, right? So when we talk about it instead, that is, well, I love to eat sandwich and chips. Is it that you love the chips or you love the crunch? Right. So if you love the crunch, then let's get carrots. Let's get celery, right? And then you can dip it in some hummus and you get that salty taste, right? That's the instead. Hummus. but if we got to start at ranch, then we'll start at ranch. But as you can see, that's what we call that instead, right? So instead of the soda, we were doing the carbonation. Now what the doctor is saying is, okay, now the carbonation is probably starting to eat at the bones and the minerals and stuff like that. That right there, so start alternating. But at that point, we got healthy because we took a step, right? From soda to the carbonated water. Absolutely. So, yes. Mm-hmm. Than anything. Yeah. Again, that's gonna be better than regular soda. Yep. Now there's a lot of talk about sweeteners. Like we can definitely get into any sweetener that's gonna be you have your aspartame, you have your Splenda and all that, right? If somebody is coming and saying, hey, I want to lose weight, and they still want something sweet, then I might not say just cut out your sweeteners, right? Because that means that you're gonna have to go from sugar to no calorie sweeteners. That doesn't make that healthy. You see what I'm saying? That doesn't make it healthy, but it cuts out the calories. So it's different. If you're coming to me saying you want to lose weight, and I got to start baby steps with you, then I might tell you, go ahead and have your sweet and low. Go ahead and have your stevia. I mean, not stevia, but your Splenda. That's baby steps. But if you're talking about getting healthy, I might not tell you to have stevia. I might not tell you to have Splenda because that's still not the healthiest way. I might tell you, let's go figure out the way we can get some honey, some agave, things of that nature, right? And so even sugar alcohols are always found in a lot of our stuff, right? And a lot of our sweeteners. So we might think we're not getting in any sweetener. We're not getting any calories, but it's still in the back, coming from the back, we're still getting some type of chemical that we might not need, right? Yeah. We all think that. Now, and this is when you dive deep into the science of it, right? So honey is of course natural, right? Agave from nectar, and then the stevia is from the stevia plant, right? Now the stevia plant, it has to be a portion of that plant that's actually giving us the sweetness, right? So we still have to mechanically get that sweetener out, right? The process of it. And so while it's going to be a better option, we're even finding out from the science now that stevia is not the best option, right? Because what they do is they'll say derived from stevia. So that's one thing I was going to talk about with the whole grain bread. It's the difference between whole wheat and whole grain. You see what I'm saying? So that's why I put whole grain and not whole wheat. So when we say it's derived from stevia, we're thinking, oh yeah, that's good. But then they don't put something else with it, and now you're not getting the benefit from the plant. All right. So again, that's minutia, right? That's not something that they're gonna tell you. But since you asked that question, we're gonna have a conversation. And even organic, that's or that the word is different now. The word organic is different now. So again, we're talking about two different things, right? So if someone tells me that is honey gonna spike my sugar, I would ask them, why are you worried about honey spiking your sugar opposed to something else? Right. Because you're still gonna get, just like with maple syrup and things of that nature, you coming from a tree. So it's natural, right? Honey, yeah, it's high in sugar, right? So I might tell you, if you have diabetes, I might tell you to cut your banana in half. I'm not gonna tell you not to eat the banana. Oh, no, I would still do the honey. Yeah. Yeah. And so again, when we talk about, I had a lady the other day, I did a video, I was doing a watermelon juice, and I put some honey in. And a lady popped on the comments, she was like, don't use the honey because it's gonna add extra calories, use some grapes. And I thought about it for a second, and I was like, why wouldn't I use the honey, right? And I thought about it, I said, well, you know, for me, why wouldn't I use the honey? For somebody who's deathly afraid of sugar, they might not use the honey. But then I thought about it again, I was like, well, 1 teaspoon of honey is less calories than a serving of grapes. But see, I don't like fighting on Facebook, so I just left it there, right? But again, when I go back to this is so confusing. You know what I'm saying? There are so many. I was on my time is going, but I was on this morning, and I know like Dr. Stacia was talking about how you scrolling, and I was scrolling this morning, and it was a lady. She's into nutrition as well, and she did a post about vegetables, you know, fruits and things. And then everybody just started kind of attacking, like, because she said about what you eat the whole vegetable or the whole fruit opposed to the juice. And so then she started talking about broccoli. And then not everybody, but a lot of people start chiming in. She don't know what she's talking about because broccoli's man-made. Now, broccoli and cauliflower, that's not natural, it's a hybrid. But why are you worried about that? Right? That was 2,000 years ago. You see what I'm saying? If I have to worry about that opposed to just saying, hey, it has the vitamins, minerals I need, let's think about that first. Like she was talking about the knowledge, when people think they have a whole bunch of knowledge, you know. And so again, when we start having a lot of these conversations, then people will say, well, I don't know what to eat. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. If broccoli ain't healthy, then I don't know what to eat, right? You know? And so that's why we need to, just start with baby steps, right? And then get in the room, right? Get into conversations about being healthier because, if you start over here with all these big conversations, then you don't know what to eat, right? If you stay over here with people that ain't talking about doing nothing but eating bad foods, then you're never gonna get better, right? So do your research, but like you said, people try to get in the minutia and start thinking about, and they're not thinking about, hey, these certain things are healthy, right? Just because 2,000 years ago it didn't grow as broccoli, it grew, grew as broccolini, what have you. That ain't got nothing to do with us now, right? Eat healthy, right? So let's go to the next one. Sugary cereals to oatmeal with berries. Can you do that? All right? Because I know some of us still eating Captain Crunch. Some of us still eating, eating Fruit Loops and stuff like that. Frosted Flakes. Hey, Frosted Flakes, we get comfortable, and sometimes I tell my wife not to put these cereals in the house, even for the kids, because I know for myself, if I'm looking for something to eat for breakfast, and I look up and even I see some Honey Nut Cheerios in there, I'll just grab that, knowing it's still a lot of sugar in that too, right? And so we can do from sugary cereals to oatmeal with berries, right? Say it again. Overnight oats is wonderful. Wonderful, right? The only thing with overnight oats is if people don't like their oatmeal cold, that's just the thing. But overnight oats can give you a lot of, nutrition because of what you put in it, let it sit. chia seeds, yogurt, all of that. Yep. Full fat dairy to low fat or Greek yogurt. Okay. Yep. Say it again. Yeah, low fat. Right now, I put this on here because that's what we say, right? Low fat. But in some communities, the full fat is actually not bad for us. So I'm gonna give y'all a little tip. Fat is not what kills us. Fat isn't the impetus. Fat got a bad name, right? Sugar is what is killing us, right? So when we talk about cholesterol and stuff like that, we can go down a totally different rabbit hole about cholesterol because our body produces cholesterol, right? And so what happens is you go to the doctor, our body produces cholesterol. Your cholesterol is how they want to put you on the statin. They want to get you on this medicine, right? So we can, it's a lot to there, but fat got a bad name, and then sugar was kind of hiding in the wings. And now it's coming back around that sugar is what's giving us heart disease and all these things, right? It ain't really the fat, right? So when I say low fat, that's what's out there. But we can talk about the full fat and but definitely Greek yogurt. Deep fried foods to baked or grilled options, right? Deep fried foods to baked or grilled options. We can do that. Mm-hmm. So the thing about it being air fried is going to be what you coat it with, right? So if I coat it with some almond flour, that'd be much better. It's not being dipped in oil, right? And so that's again, what is that? That's a better option, right? Mm-hmm. Next. All right, regular ice cream to frozen yogurt or homemade smoothies. You see the progression there, right? So frozen yogurt still gonna have a lot of sugar in it, right? But it's not gonna have as much as the ice cream. So homemade smoothies, I believe that's one of the best breakfasts to get as much nutrition in as possible. It's the easiest. So people who say, well, I don't have time to eat breakfast, I don't have time to cook nothing. You can put a ton of nutrition in a smoothie in the morning and walk out the door and have it as you're going to work, right? Same thing, you might not be eating your overnight oats, but it's already done for you, right? So you have more time to eat opposed to trying to cook in the morning time, right? You can put your stuff together, and then in the morning time, all you're doing is putting it in the blender and blending it up, and then you're out the door. And you're getting your vegetables, you get your fruits, you're getting your protein, all of that in one fell swoop, right? And then you're out the door. Commercial salad dressing opposed to homemade vinaigrettes, all right? I did a video some years ago talking about death of a salad. And I talked about how I was at that time I was the director of food nutrition services at this hospital, and so I was over the kitchen. So I was sitting there, and we had a salad bar, and I watched the lady start from the beginning of the salad bar, and she had her lettuce, and she had spinach, and it's looking good. But as she got towards the end, she had more of everything else on the plate than she had of the lettuce. And then scoops of dressing. And I said to myself, she just killed that salad. Like whatever was going to be healthy about that is unhealthy now, right? And so, again, have you heard of how to use salad dressing when you're eating a salad? Okay, absolutely. So you dip. So you put the dressing in a cup or a small container, and then you dip. If you try this method, you will realize that you don't need that much salad dressing as you usually do, right? Now, whether you try that method or not is a whole different thing, right? But if you try it, you'll understand that just drowning it, you're actually just putting more than you actually really need or that you really want. Candy bars to nut mixes or fresh fruit, all right? So one thing that we've seen is, you look at Snickers. Snickers had a very good commercial. Now, their branding is just great. It's amazing, right? And it makes you think, if I'm hungry, where do I go? Like literally the science behind that is, if I'm hungry, let me grab a Snicker bar. knowing good and well that's not going to be the best option if you're hungry, right? But the commercials are just, the branding is just amazing. So we want to go from thinking that I have to have a Snicker to maybe keeping some fresh fruit, okay? In the last podcast, I talked about if I'm at home and I am craving something, right? I'm craving something sweet, then one or two things is going to happen, right? Either I'm going to have to get up and go to the store and get it, which is going to be a pain, right? Or I have to get that instead. So we keep dates at the house, all right? And so dates, if you ever had a date, dates are very, very sweet, right? And so what I'll do is I have a date and I put some almond butter in it, and then that right there would give me, for me, what I call a cookie. Frozen grapes. Yep, yep. There are so many things, so many ways that you can use fruit and different foods that actually give you that crave, that take the craving away, right? You can make watermelon popsicles, right? And it literally from the watermelon and not, just go buy it from the store, but you make your own stuff, put it in the freezer so that when you have that craving, you just go get it. It's that instead, right? Instead of keeping ice cream in the house, right? You might keep some yogurt, right? And then you might put some, for me, what I'll do is I'll put some chocolate protein powder in there, stir it up, right? And now I have, chocolate yogurt, opposed to having some pudding or something like that, right? And so it's just different tweaks that you can use to make, in the protein, I'm getting more protein now, right? And I'm getting Greek yogurt, right? Opposed to getting all that sugar and nothing else, right? So these right here are just different options that I wanted to show, like for breakfast, okay? So going from the typical muffin and coffee, right? You on your way into work, what do? You stop at Starbucks, you grab a cup of coffee, and you get you a muffin. And this is, again, Starbucks, it can be addictive, right? You get your Frappuccino, you get all of that, and then you feel like, cause I'm very, I've done it before, right? Because of what I used to do was, I used to do a lot of work at Starbucks, meaning I would go in and I would be on the computer, sending emails and stuff like that. And so what I found myself doing is I found myself getting either zucchini bread or a honey nut muffin, something like that. And I would think in my head, I was trying to rationalize it. It's zucchini bread, right? How much zucchini is in that bread though? Right? Like I'm trying to rationalize this zucchini, but I would have a regular cup of coffee. But just going from that to instead of having Starbucks coffee, then doing your own coffee, right? And then putting your own sweetener in there, right? And then you might still have a muffin, right? But maybe have a different type of muffin. It's still gonna have more sugar, but you might not be getting it from a commercial spot. Then going to, again, regular coffee that doesn't have too much sweetener in it, to having, a bowl of oatmeal or some yogurt and berries and nuts, right? It just shows you the progression of where we start from, and then how we can just progressively make that better, right? And again, it's not going from A to Z, it's going from A to E, right? Then taking your next steps. Let's look at our lunch, all right? A burger and fries, right? A burger and fries and a Coke, all right? That's where we start from, all right? Now, let's take the fries out, all right? And maybe we'll do a burger and salad, okay? Let's take the fries out, all right? Because we know we're getting too much salt, and we know we're getting deep fried fries. We need to take that out, all right? To go into doing taking our own burger to work, all right? Because now we know the type of meat, the lean cut that we've done at the house, all right? To now we can do a burger over salad and water, right? That just shows you how to go from A to D, right? These are small ways to just make things better, right? It's not saying that I got to cut everything out today, but this is how I can just make that meal better. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. 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 It's plant-based. Mm-hmm. Beyond, it's yeah, it's plant-based. Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And let's look at dinner. All right, dinner, pizza and a beer, right? So instead of having pizza and a beer, we might have a chicken and pasta and a salad, right? Chicken and pasta and a salad. Then we upgrade that. We take the pasta away and just have more chicken, and now we have a regular, a full salad, all right? And then you see going out to eat how we choose healthier options opposed to what we used to do, right? So it's pretty simple, huh? It's simple, but it's just not easy, right? It's simple. On paper, it looks good. But implementing and taking action on it and actually following through, because we have so much that are hitting us from our areas every single day. And then again, with even with the addictions, you're addicted to sugar, addicted to these different things. It's simple to say, I'm gonna do it, right? It's just not that easy, right? And so if you need help doing that, it's like Dr. Stacia says, find someone who does that. Find you a registered dietitian, all right? Find you a nutritionist, find you a health coach, all right? So that you can have somebody that can guide you through it and take you step by step, right? Because again, if somebody tells you to go cold turkey, you know what I'm saying, that's not where you are, you're not gonna do it, right? So I always tell people, it's simple, it's just not easy, but you definitely can do it, all right? So I just want to thank you for y'all's time today.
Let's thank Mr. Percy Bass again. Do you think those tips be helpful? Can we share the PowerPoint with the church? Okay, great. So we'll send out both sets of PowerPoints. I want to thank everyone. Come on up here, Miss Crystal. She said no? Okay. Well, we just want to thank her also for doing the blood pressure checks. I'm so grateful. Did everybody get a chance to do it? Do we have anybody that's missed? If not, we can go out there real quick and she can take care of you. With that, Bishop, would you like to come up and say a few things? Are you good? You good? All right. Well, I just want to thank everybody. Hopefully we can do this again and make it bigger next year, still have some very dynamic speakers. If you have any ideas for next year, please let me know. I am very open to what your suggestions are. And with that, thank you for coming today, and God bless you. We'll see you tomorrow at church.